Hello and welcome. I'm Natasha Greenwood, and before you dive into this channel, I want you to know the story behind the voice and vision you're about to engage with. There's something deeply personal about turning your own chart into a map of both inquiry and storytelling. I was born with Libra rising, a lens of diplomacy, curiosity, and inner refinement. But behind that balanced exterior lies a life lived through contrast, a soul forged by Capricorn pressure and Aries fire. I didn't grow into who I am through ease. I became who I am by walking through internal battlegrounds, with the hope that something sacred would survive the war. You see, my Sun, Mercury, Neptune, and Juno are all in Capricorn, housed in the 4th house, the terrain of family, emotional roots, and ancestral karma. This placement, it's not light. It often speaks of an early home life where emotional warmth may have felt conditional or withheld, where love was proven through action, achievement, and stability more than affection. It's like growing up in a house made of stone, safe maybe, but echoing and cold in the wrong moments. And for me, Saturn, the karmic teacher, sits in Sagittarius in my 3rd house, weaving its serious weight through my communication style. I learned early that words carry responsibility, that ideas must be solid, that speaking up comes with risk, but I also learned how to build mental resilience, how to become the architect of my own understanding. My moon in Aries, in the 7th house, reveals an emotional world that is passionate, reactive, and searching for reflection in the eyes of others. My needs were not always met quietly. I had to learn to advocate for myself, to hold my emotional fire without burning down the very bridges I needed to cross. The North Node here, too, reminds me that my evolution comes through conscious relationship, learning how to love without losing myself. The deeper psychological wound? Chiron in Gemini in the 9th. It's the wound of feeling misunderstood, of being told that the way I think, question, or believe is wrong or too much. For some, Chiron in the 9th may express as a fear of speaking truth aloud, especially when it challenges collective dogma. I spent much of my early life wondering if my thoughts were valid, or if my truths were too unconventional. But through that, I was gifted a mission: to speak with nuance. To learn and to teach, not just facts, but soul truths. This wound became a doorway. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." I didn't always know who I was. But through experience, transits, trials, and the search for meaning, I've begun to understand myself not through perfection, but through process. Pluto in Scorpio in the 2nd house, conjunct Venus, reshaped my entire understanding of self-worth and survival. I've had to evolve by birthing and peeling away outdated identities, jobs, relationships, and beliefs that were never truly mine. I've had to become intimate with scarcity, material and emotional, and still choose beauty, still choose power, still choose depth. In therapy, we call this the reframe. What happens when you stop seeing your early story as a sentence and begin to view it as a setup for your soul's curriculum? Psychologist Irvin Yalom said, "The therapist must have a theory, but the therapy occurs in the person's story." And in that way, I've become both the client and the clinician of my own inner work. I believe in holding a mirror up to ourselves, not to critique, but to see clearly the outline of who we were, who we are, and who we are becoming. Every scar I've carried has a root in the chart, but more importantly, it has a place in the evolution of my path. From counseling theories to archetypal astrology, I've studied it all. Not as a scholar who knows, but as a human who needed to heal. I share all of this not to tell you I've figured it all out, but to show you the truth beneath the surface. Because what you're witnessing today, this channel, this voice, this guidance, isn't coming from someone untouched by life. It's the result of years spent decoding pain into purpose. My chart ruler, Venus in Scorpio, positioned in the 2nd house, taught me that love, art, and value must go deep. I don't do superficial, I can't. Venus here has asked me to learn how to transform through what I possess, what I give, and what I lose. It's taught me to question everything I thought made me worthy, and to rebuild that worth on a foundation that can't be taken away. When Pluto sits beside Venus, love becomes an initiation, not a transaction. And so I create, from the pain, yes, but also from the longing to connect, to offer my insights to those who might be walking their own edge right now. Whether you're in the middle of a spiritual awakening, navigating burnout, exploring astrology, or just wondering why you feel so damn tired of chasing what doesn't fulfill you, this space is for you. Mars and Jupiter in Pisces, both in my 6th house, taught me how to serve with soul. They show a spiritual dedication to helping others, not through control or power, but through healing, compassion, and empathy. The 6th house governs the daily grind, and Pisces isn't known for its love of routine. But what it does bring is a sacredness to the ordinary. The way we move, eat, work, and rest, all of it becomes meaningful when you carry Piscean energy here. And I had to learn. When your body becomes your compass, your service must come from soul, not martyrdom. And that's why I also speak about burnout, emotional fatigue, and the healing process from a holistic lens, because the world has rewarded overwork and emotional repression for too long. My chart has lived both, and it nearly broke me. But those breakdowns, they birthed this version of me. I've studied psychology not just through books, but through my own unraveling and integration. I've applied person-centered therapy to my self-talk, used existential theory to find meaning in grief, and embodied somatic work to learn how to feel safe in my body again. If you've ever wondered why you feel so responsible all the time, why you question whether you've done enough, why relationships seem to challenge you more than they soothe you, this channel is meant to help illuminate those themes. You're not broken, you're just in process. Astrology to me is not fate, it's a reflective tool. It's how we see ourselves outside the noise of daily expectations. As someone with the Moon, Vesta, North Node, and Vertex in Aries in the 7th house, relationships have often been the greatest arena for transformation. They've shown me my wounds. They've also shown me my strength. I used to see conflict as failure, but now I see it as friction that shapes character. Every significant romantic or one-on-one connection in my life has been a mirror, sometimes gentle, sometimes shattering, but always revealing. The Moon in Aries feels first and thinks later. It's taught me to own my emotional reactivity without shame, and to alchemize it into clarity, courage, and boundary setting. In therapy, we learn that healing happens in relationship, whether with a counselor, a partner, or even the self. With so much Aries energy in my 7th house, I've had to learn how to exist in relationship without losing myself. I've been the initiator, the fixer, the one who overextends to prove value. But eventually I had to ask, what if my presence was enough? And that's part of what brought me here. Learning how to show up in connection while honoring my own fire. I've walked the tightrope between independence and attachment. And through that journey, I've come to understand what authentic relating really means. Not perfection, but presence. Not constant harmony, but courageous communication. It's no coincidence that my Chiron, the wounded healer, sits in Gemini in the 9th house. The wound here? A deep fear that my voice would be misunderstood or dismissed. That what I had to say would never be enough to bridge the gap between worlds, cultures, or even parts of myself. But healing that wound? It's made me a messenger. Gemini is the storyteller, the translator of dualities. And in the 9th house, the house of philosophy, truth, and long journeys, Chiron becomes the bridge between intellect and meaning. My pain around being unheard or misinterpreted has become the very reason I work so hard to communicate clearly, poetically, and truthfully. For myself, for you, for anyone who's ever questioned whether their inner world mattered. The truth is, it does. And part of what makes this space unique is that it blends the intuitive and the intellectual. I'm not here to float off into spiritual bypassing or intellectualize your pain out of existence. I'm here to sit with it, speak to it, and offer insights from both the stars and the psyche. My 4th house is heavy with Capricorn, a legacy of emotional responsibility. Growing up, it may have felt like I had to be the strong one, the one who thought practically, spoke carefully, and never needed much. Capricorn in the 4th house often indicates a childhood where tenderness was replaced with structure, where emotions were managed, not expressed. That childhood blueprint created resilience, but it also taught me to distrust my own needs. And it's only been through doing this inner work, both through astrology and therapeutic reflection, that I've reclaimed softness. I've learned that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the root of empathy, and it's part of why I create content like this, to model what it means to show up as whole, not just functional. So, if you felt like you were too emotional growing up, or perhaps not emotional enough to connect deeply, you're not alone. Many of us were raised in households that valued survival over emotional fluency, but we can learn. We can reparent ourselves. We can evolve. And that's what this space is about. Evolution, personal, emotional, spiritual. Through astrology, psychology, movement, and mindfulness. As someone with Saturn and Uranus and Sagittarius in the 3rd house, my mind has always oscillated between seeking structure and needing freedom. I need to believe what I say. I need to question what I'm taught. And I invite you to do the same here. This isn't a space of passive consumption. It's a space for inquiry, for truth-seeking, for becoming more of who you really are. And now, after years of introspection, unraveling, and integration, I've come to recognize something vital. The birth chart is not a cage. It's a compass. It doesn't tell you who you are, but rather who you can become, if you're willing to face your patterns, love your shadows, and honor the divine timing of your becoming. My Venus in Scorpio in the 2nd house has taught me the value of deep, transformative love, not only with others, but within. She whispers that worth isn't earned, it's remembered. That wealth, true wealth, is the capacity to live in alignment with what's meaningful. It's the intimacy of knowing yourself so well that nothing external can convince you of your lack. But it hasn't always felt that way. There were moments in my journey where I questioned everything. Times where the fear of scarcity, financially, emotionally, spiritually, echoed so loudly I could barely hear my own intuition. Yet that's what Scorpio does. It brings us to the brink so that we can rise, rebirthed and renewed. Jupiter and Mars and Pisces in my 6th house ask that I serve with sensitivity, that I bring compassion into the mundane, that I see even routine work, like creating these videos or offering birth chart readings, not as tasks, but as rituals, as offerings as soul service, because truthfully, every act of showing up with heart, especially when no one's watching, is a form of devotion. And this work, this channel, this space, it's my devotion, to healing, to curiosity, to all of you walking your own paths toward inner knowing. If you've ever felt out of place in the world but deeply at home within the mystery, this space is for you.